Thank you, Tasty Reckless. Episode 50. This one is for the Strat heads. As we go over the fielding ratings for the 2020 set, Diamond Diehards is on. Joe Rizzo here bringing you baseball along with Jeff the Dawg Healy and a very special guest tonight. We are ready to bring you episode 50. Why the Hawaiian theme? Hawaii 5-0. Episode 50. Who would have thought in March when we started this little thing up that we would get to 50 episodes and be such a rousing success with such great things to come. Anyway, for episode 50, we have our very special guest, Mr. Hawaii 5-0 himself, Jerry Milani. You can see him over there. We're not fancy enough to bring him in on the video later like he is when he's doing his thing. Producer tonight, Xavier Rizzo. He's just out of the picture to my right, doing a great job. We want you to follow the show on Facebook, the page and the group, and on Twitter, Twitch, and Instagram, where we are at Diamond Diehards. You can also find us on LinkedIn and YouTube. So if you want to do business with us, we would love that. Or if you're doing the work stuff and you like to follow your baseball, definitely a good follow on LinkedIn. You want to do that. We know you do. For our listeners, not our viewers, but our listeners are both, pull in Uncle Paul, subscribe to the audio on iTunes, Spotify, and Stitcher. If you follow Joe Rogan and Bill Simmons over to Spotify, we're there. So follow us over there. Visit fmsgraphics.com for all your printing and promotional needs. Yes, it might be past the time where you're going to get your holiday cards, but fmsgraphics.com is there for you. Ordering is easy, and you get your stuff very quickly. You can follow the dog on Twitter at JeffHealy8, the number 8, and you can follow me on Twitter as well. Joe Rizzo, that is Rear Naked Choke, all one word. That's my personal account over there. And if you want to follow my other show, if you're interested in mixed martial arts, it's Rear Naked Choke Radio, hence Rear Naked Choke, or at RNC Radio, and you can follow that on the same places that you follow this thing over here. And my Instagram is Joe Rizzo MMA, but we'd rather you follow the show stuff at Diamond Diehard, so do that. Okay, without further ado, our thing that we like to do is Veteran of the Day, and we bring in our beloved veteran, the dog, Jeff Healy, for Veteran of the Day. Dog, take it over.
All right, Riz, another fun one here. I got to admit, I thought about this about 10 minutes before showtime, and I'm like, I need a Veteran of the Day. So I started thinking back to my military history a little bit, what was kind of going on around this sort of time. And there was this little thing in World War II called the Battle of the Bulge. That was going on right at this time, the last gasp of the German army. So our Veteran of the Day is Lieutenant Colonel Harvey Fraser. He was the commander of the 51st Engineer Combat Battalion, and he was a West Point grad of 1939, so this is only 5 years later, so the guy's like 28 or something like that. Arrived at his battalion. He wanted to get some combat time in before the end of the war, because he did mostly staff work until then. He arrived 3 days before the start of the Battle of the Bulge. So it was a nice, quiet unit. Hey, why don't you go there and take over, Harvey? He goes in there. All of a sudden, huge armored thrust by the German army right into the Ardennes forest. He took charge of his unit, which was spread out all over the place. Very hard to move around, right? It's in the middle of winter. The storms are raging, which helped the Germans as well. He managed to put his unit together, and along with the rest of the engineers in there, earned the title of the Damned Engineers, and wound up slowing up that German advance enough that they were not able to push through the disrupted defense quickly enough. Couldn't capture the port of Antwerp, their key objective, and then were stuck out in basically with an exposed flank for General Patton to come in with his Third Army and destroyed the last major threat from the German army between then and the end of the war. So, once again, Lieutenant Colonel Harvey Fraser, commander of the 51st Engineer Combat Battalion, our Veteran of the Day. Thanks for the service.
And to simulate that stuff, there's so many. What are the game simulations that we saw? Growing up, it was war and baseball. pretty much, right? That was, I mean, maybe not the best comparison,
I was wondering where Riz is going.
yeah,
Okay,
but I mean, like, listen, there
more of
was
that later.
a lot of those like war simulation, battle simulation games, and
Hmm.
baseball simulations. Strat-O-Matic, right?
All about the numbers.
That's our wonderful bond, and our pal Jerry Milani, who's going to unmute himself as with the Hawaii 5-0 background. So this is why we had to do this, right? So Jerry's like the biggest Hawaii. He's been the Hawaii 5-0 guy since forever. And he's also got his association with Strat-O-Matic, and he also played Strat-O-Matic with us. I'm like, 50th episode, we got to have Jerry on. It's 5-0, and it's Strat, and we got to do the Strat ratings with Jerry. So, Jerry, welcome back. You haven't been on since some of the earlier episodes when you were a staple and helping us get off the ground and putting the idea in my head and maybe the gun to my head a little bit. Riz, start a podcast.
Hey,
Start
you want to
talking.
do this? You want to do a podcast? We'll give you some Strat-O-Matic stuff.
Yeah, and that's pretty much how we got here, right, Jer?
Exactly.
So, all right, the Strat-O-Matic fielding ratings are a wonderful thing that has hit Twitter the past like however many years since they've been doing it. And it used to be that you'd have to wait. Like somebody would get the ratings and like John Lamanna would get it and he'd put it out in his book and he'd break down all the cards and he'd be selling it like, by hand outside when you're going to pick up the cards, or you could get like a mail order thing. But now with Twitter, it's like what did you guys do? Like 3 days of tweets where you tweeted about like, one or two guys from each team over the course of 3 days, and then the full release came, I guess, just a few days ago, right?
Wednesday, yeah, last week. So we did Monday and Tuesday. We did every 15 minutes. We did one guy per team for the 30 guys on Monday and then 30 guys on Tuesday. And then Wednesday, they released the entire thing. So basically, they gave me the list on Monday or on Sunday night and said, here's how to, here's a procedure on timing and giving it out. And say them the whatever way you want. So I tried to get a little creative, or at least make them interesting, not just say, Gleyber Torres 4, but kind of, make it so that people would be waiting for the next one with some interest. So I think the ones that they chose for me to give were very interesting, and it's great to see all the fans, requesting other ones. And sometimes they were requesting ones that we were going to give. And we even threw a couple extra ones in there when fans asked. So it was, it's neat to be on that side of it after so many years of playing.
Yeah, it's definitely cool. Where do you start with these things? So you get the ratings ahead of time, and are the first thing you're doing are you just looking at the Yankees?
Well, yeah, there's a committee that I want to get on. They haven't invited me yet. There's a committee that gets together after. I mean, they do the ratings in a few ways. They look at stats and look at numbers because that's what this game is based on. But they actually have a group that they pull from in each of the cities. So they may work with a beat writer or with someone who they know really well, who's seen the team play the whole year. And they'll talk through, okay, we don't know much about, Wade Lamont, tell me, beat writer, what's Wade Lamont, and to give an idea. So it's someone who knows what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 means in terms of ratings. And they'll use that as to help them in players that they don't know as much about, or that, because some of it is the eye test. I mean, if you look at the ratings and compare it to defensive stats, you might find on a Baseball Reference or one of those places, sometimes it doesn't straight go with, okay, if the guy is -4 defensive, then he's automatically a 4, or if he's +2, he's not automatically a 1. There is some give and take in there, and it doesn't, of course, take into account errors. This is just a range, and range is a bunch of different things. Range is range, but it's also, giving you a sense of how that fielder is just in general, as opposed to his fellow right fielders, left fielders, whatever the position may be. It's a comparison as well.
Okay, so most importantly, I know he's probably, if he's not watching live, then he will be listening. Cousin Anthony Rizzo maintains his 1 at first base, which is of course, like we were hoping and praying for that. And the strat gods have come through. By the way, Dawg, when you're ready to talk again, you got to take yourself off mute. So I don't know if you were trying to chime in there or not, but
No, I was trying to be polite and just let Jerry go there, and there might have been some Christmas boxes getting broken up in the background that we didn't necessarily want to share with the rest of the podcast. So I'm trying to be somewhat judicious here.
I've got a book you got to read, Dawg. I'm in the middle of it now, and when you were talking about that military hero, it's called The Splendid and the Vile by Eric Larson. He has a series of great books that he's done, and this one is about Churchill in World War II, but it just covers mid-1939 to mid-1940, so it's just the time. It's really
interesting.
Great.
That's a very interesting time for it. Yeah,
there's a lot of military stuff. This is before the U.S. got involved. This is before the offensive that you were just talking about with that hero. So it's something you would really sink your teeth into.
That would be great. I just picked up the rest of Rick Atkinson's Liberation trilogy, so I've got about about 1,500 pages worth or so.
This one's only 500, so it's only taken me a month.
There we go.
To get through it. Yeah,
for a year.
Exactly.
That should be great. And Churchill was such an involved leader. He previously had been the First Lord of the Admiralty, pushed the Royal Navy over from coal to oil and stuff like that. So it's very interesting from a statesman
that's
background.
Right. The period that he's transitioning into being the leader. So I think he would have been a 1. He would have been a 1. Whatever defense you want to put on him.
Yeah. And high E. He was involved. Wasn't always making a play, but yeah.
The more I read about it, the more I feel like Britain's defense would have been a 1 before the U.S. came. I mean, they held off as long as they could before the U.S. got involved. They were a 1 on defense. We'll give the Brits their due. The French, they might have gotten a 4, but
they got the
Brits got a 1.
Good trivia question for you. The French had more tanks than the Germans started World War II.
And the Germans
they got completely
all over. They had to sink half of them to keep them from taking them. It was great. This is all tons of stuff that I had no idea of. So here's the connection between what you do every show with the.
He'd be like a 1 for we need like a manager rating. So like Churchill would have like a manager rating.
He would have a manager rating.
Plus everything else up.
He would be Billy Martin in short spurts.
There you go.
Okay, so where do you guys want to start? I kind of feel like I gave the Cub tease with cousin Anthony. So even though it's like completely out of order,
I think
let's just start with the Cubs.
So it's like around the baselines.
As you scroll through without going through and just thinking, maybe look at the Orioles and see someone who's interesting and go through the teams. However, whatever makes sense for you. There's some breakout guys.
Maybe we should talk over some. Maybe we should for some of the fans who aren't quite as up on some of the stuff. Maybe we could kind of talk through some of the different columns and stuff that we have on here and how they break it out, like defensive runs saved, things like that, previous rating, new rating, etc.
Yeah, folks aren't familiar. The basic ratings for strat defense there's 3 different ratings for defense, 4 in some cases, but mostly 3. So for your regular infielders, first around the horn. You have a what's called a range factor, which is normally 1, 2, 3, or 4, and then your Dave Kingman, who's a 5. So think of 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 being your Don Mattingly and your cousin Anthony Rizzo and your very best defenders at whatever position. Ozzie Smith's going to be a 1, all the way to really a 4. So like Luke Voigt is a 4. So if you want to put it in Yankees terms. Luke Voigt is a 4 at first base. And 4 mostly means range, mostly means higher, but it also means just like getting to balls, but also like doesn't mean your speed necessarily, because there's some outfielders who are fast who are still a 3 or a 4, but it gives you a sense of their defensive ability generally. And then there's an error rating that's separate from that. So a guy could be he could be a 1 and get to a lot of balls, but he could be a higher error number. And the number is really based at the ranking of the number for your error rating is really based on if you played a full season, 162, how many errors would you make at that position based on your numbers? So an E8, for example, at whatever position transmitted over a whole 162 game season would make 8 errors based on their stats. And then in the outfield, that's added. There's an arm rating that's added to an outfielder and a catcher. The infielders don't have an arm rating, but the outfielders and the catcher will have an arm rating, and the catcher has additional ratings for pass balls and throwing the ball into center field and things. all the things that you would do in a game. They try to replicate as many of those without making it so cumbersome that you need to roll the dice 9 times to get every result. So there are a few things that you might not see in Strat that are in the game, but they try to replicate as many. And these things have evolved over time. I mean, originally players only played what's called the basic game, which is really the front of the card. And you only had 3. It didn't matter whether it was left-hand pitcher, right-hand pitcher. Basically, you had half the chance that your batter's going to affect the play and half the chance that the pitcher's going to affect it. And without getting too into the weeds on it, the lower number, the rating, the better, and the lower E rating, obviously, the better. And that's kind of how a fielding rating is put together. And it goes by the errors in that season. So if you're looking at playing like the 1927 season or the 1913 season, those error ratings are going to be very, very high, because it's going based on the year. A set of cards is really based on that year. So that also, it goes into hitting, where if it's a season like 1987 where a lot of home runs were hit, and you take that same card and you play it against a season where, 1968, where a lot of home runs were not hit, that's going to be reflected in the cards. And actually a card that hits 20 home runs in 1968 is going to be a lot better than a card that hit 20 home runs in 1987, because of the relative, each year is a contained set. And then when they do a special series, like the Hall of Fame series, for example, they normalize everything. So they normalize based on just whatever the baseline would be. So a guy who played in the 1920s, they'll normalize his error rating based on how many errors were made in the entire league. So someone like Hans Wagner, who would have a very high E, if you played him in the 1920 season or whatever years he played, 1915, that would be normalized for a universe. So now we're looking at the lowest error ratings ever in history, because fewer errors have been made every decade all the way through.
Jerry, did you ever play like a tournament with the Hall of Fame set?
I did.
How did that turn out?
I don't know how. I don't remember who pitched those games. Oh, maybe this guy pitched those games. Last game.
Oh, it's hard to see.
The greatest lefty pitcher ever.
There he is.
Yeah, you got to say it.
There
it is.
Sandy Koufax.
It didn't come through on the camera so well, but yes, it was Sandy Koufax.
Sandy Koufax, yes, came in and pitched in that. But yeah, so I mean, it's
So basically, I mean, Strat. I mean, just kind of to boil it down a little bit, Strat really had a lot of the advanced metrics that have sort of become more mainstream within the game today, right? Strat was kind of doing that 10, 20, 30 years ago. It just you never really saw it down in the newspaper. Nobody ever really talked about it. They were effectively coming up with ways to calculate WAR and stuff like that. That you just didn't see back then.
I think it's Paul Gallagher among our friend group who kind of said this in our chats or whatever, that we were kind of way ahead of the game on that. Like, we as Strat players knew in 1988 and 89 when we were playing that guys with a lot of walks and a lot of on base were really valuable. That the value of somebody like Willie Randolph, who had walks all over the place, even though they only hit 280, when you add that all up, and his on base was almost 400, and his speed and his low E rating, he was a really valuable player, where people look at his numbers and they don't look, particularly great. Scott Rowland is somebody who's people are really appreciating more now. Players like that did a lot of things. Don Money is a player I think of that did a lot of things in the 70s and never got any consideration, as being one of the best players. When you go back and look at his numbers, they really were. Someone was talking about, I guess Dave Kingman's birthday was either today or yesterday. Somebody put something on Twitter like, "Oh, imagine what he'd be worth today with the analytics and all that." I'm like, he'd be worth nothing today. I mean, he did one thing. He never walked. He had no value defensively. He had no value running. His career WAR is like 14. I mean, it's incredibly low for somebody who hit so many home runs. But those are things that we knew, and I think Paul was the first one to kind of say it. It's like, we knew that 30 years ago when we're playing the game. And now everyone caught up to kind of what Strat players have known for years, is that getting on base and getting them in is how you win games.
Well, big thing that we always was like, guys like Jim Rice, he was good, but he hit into so many double plays, and like we would get guys like we're like, oh, hi, give me a guy that strikes out. At least he's not making two outs for me. So
Yeah.
like Jack Clark versus Jim Rice was like not even a question for us. We're like, oh yeah, Jack Clark's like
And
100
Jack
times
Clark
better.
walked 120 times
Yeah,
a year.
yeah.
And Jim Rice walked 50 times. Like Jim Rice only got kind of accidental walks. He got the Jim Rice would get those intimidator walks because you knew you just looked at him, you knew he was the best player. Like you knew he was the best player for half the time that he was in the league, or at least the best player on the Red Sox. But he didn't walk as a matter of trying to walk. He was that pitch half an inch outside. He's trying to drive that to right center field and not walk. But that's how the game was played in 1978. Also, his job, he felt like it, and whether it was right or wrong, Andre Dawson was the same way. They felt like their job was to drive in runs, even though we look at it now differently. When we played Strat, if that guy got a walk with man on second, we were good with that because the next batter was coming up.
I know. That's
with
the
two
way.
men on base instead of one.
And then, how does it? Well, now that's a perfect segue into looking at some of these fielder ratings, right? Like you look at these guys, and from the Strat-O-Matic players' point of view, the first thing you see when a guy is a 4 as a fielder, because there's a 1 is great, a 2 is very good, a 3 is like, okay, I can kind of live with it if he does something good, and a 4 is like, he better be Albert Bell, right? So the first thing I'm looking at when I'm looking at the Orioles is like, I'm looking at the 4s and I'm like, okay, can these guys rake? Like, Hanser Alberto is a 4 at second and third. Chris Davis is a 3 at first, and he can't hit. So why is he even there? And you're seeing more 3s and 4s until you get to Cedric Mullins, he's a 2 in center and a 2 in right and a 2 in left. So he's got the 2s everywhere in the outfield. So any offense you get out of a guy like that, or maybe if he runs or something, you could live with it. Then you get to Renato Nunez, who I always want to call Renato because it looks Brazilian to me. He's a 5 at the corners. So no matter how much he's hitting, like he's been on my fantasy team, but like you don't play defense on your fantasy teams, and like him and Rio Ruiz is a 5 at second, which you'd expect, but he's a 3 at third, which is more of his regular position, and he gets a 4 if you want to stick him out in left field.
Yeah, and we're going with a smaller. I mean, they're using this. Stratus putting out 2 sets of cards for 2021 for the 2020 season. They're putting out one set based on the actual 60 games that were played, and they're putting out another set based on their projections that they did going into the season. And
did the Mets win that one?
Year went on through their 365 games. So
they buy that one.
They're going to use the same ratings for defense because they're going to use the real life ratings for defense, but the offensive cards will be different because of projection versus that. But it's just like you were saying, you can't live with a 5 really playing with any regularity. You put them in as you have to, but you can live with a 4 maybe in right field or in left field. And it's just like in major leagues, like you can only hide somebody there for so long. But if you had a 4 in center field, I mean, you don't. When you look at a chart and you look and you see every time that a ball that should be hit, should be caught in the outfield is in for a double. And look, how many times do you see that in a Bernie Williams or guys like that when they were young and Bernie got to everything. Then at some point he didn't, but they still had him in center field because he's their center fielder. How many times for the Mets this year did they struggle with who you're going to put in center field? They didn't have a real true center fielder.
Sure, we got a 4.
Oh, we'll get to that.
Why you say that?
And you end up with a 4.
So every game that's watched.
And when you play and when you watch a lot of real baseball, that's when you start to see it. Okay, that guy, another ball he didn't get to, another ball he didn't get to. And in Strat, you start playing a few games and you start getting them, they call it X rating, center field X. And when the ball's hit out there, you're like, that's probably going to be.
Yeah, I mean, and just historically, right? Let's say you had someone who was a 4 with low E, right? He would have been like a steady, dependable glove back in the day, right? He didn't get to everything, but he got to, he caught, right? So he might have had a fielding percentage like 990 or something
Lou
like that.
Piniella might have been a 4 with a very low E, right? He
Yeah.
didn't.
So like
really,
historically, he would have been thought of as a great defensive player, but yet when you look at it more of the advanced metrics, his value tends to drop. It's funny. Just as we were sitting there talking, I was looking up Nimmo. He's a 4 in center field. Played there most of the time. Marisnik could be out there somewhat, but he was only -5 for defensive runs saved.
but that's
So
that's a cumulative number. So if he only played 20 games out there and he's a -5, then over.
Well, he was the primary center
games,
fielder, so he played decent. Like I was expecting that to be -15, honestly.
So remember, that's a cumulative number, so it'll be multiplied by whatever number of games gets you to 162, and then think about that kind of a season.
Oh yeah. I mean, definitely not good, but like that's sort of like an example, like where he likely has a low E because what he got to, he likely probably caught.
Right.
So it didn't kill him all the time, but it really wound up hitting the pitching staff. So historically, he would have hurt the pitching staff more than he necessarily would have hurt himself using some older sort of metrics.
And one guy that I think people think of a lot, is Gary Sheffield. When you look at him offensively over his career, he's a Hall of Fame offensive player. Like early in his career, he ran a lot. He mashed till the very last time he was on the field. He was a feared and mash hitter. He walked a lot. He got a lot of doubles. He ran the bases well. He just was a really bad fielder. And it got to, by the time he was on the Yankees, he was almost unplayable, but they still played him, and he was the regular right fielder. Like he didn't even DH that much. They had plenty of DHs. They didn't need any more. So he played the outfield, and when you look at his numbers, he has. I think Adam Dunn is the only one with a worse negative fielding runs rating over his career, and when you add that in, it might take him out, and he hasn't really gotten serious consideration. Cream and clear or not, he hasn't gotten really serious consideration for Hall of Fame, even though he felt like a Hall of Famer, at least on offense.
Yeah. I thought it was kind of interesting. I'm sorry, go ahead, Riz.
Didn't he play third base in the playoff game, like at the end? Didn't they put him in at third base that one game?
No, I mean, you remember early in his career when he played with Milwaukee, famously he said he threw balls into the stands on purpose so he could get out of Milwaukee. I think he said he didn't, but I don't remember. I have to go back and read about it, but he was really, not an infielder, but he started as an infielder, and he was a good athlete. I mean, there was really no reason for him to be as bad in the outfield as he was. He just was. Like you can't just outrun your mistakes. It's one of those things. Either you can kind of do it or not. And I know there's someone like Clint Frazier who's worked really hard, and he went from a 5. I mean, at least he's a 4 now, but like he was clearly a 5 in last year. He had that debacle in Boston, and he worked on it and worked on it and worked on it. And you can get to whatever level you can, but like, you can really hurt your team, just like in regular baseball and Strat. If you have that high E rating or a high range factor rating, you cost a lot of runs.
Let me, Dawg. You know what? I just want to pull us back to so we don't lose sight of like going through the ratings here. So if we're looking at the Orioles, right? Basically everybody's like a 3, a 4, or 5. We told you about Cedric Mullins. Anthony Santander is a 2 and right. He's got 8 runs saved. That's got to be like I didn't want to mess up my sort, but that's got to be one of, if not the highest runs saved for anybody at any position. But he still gets a 2 and right, and he also has left field on the card. 0 runs saved there, but he also gets the 2, probably like by proxy. I wonder how some of that goes, Jer. Where you got.
Yeah, I think again, some of it is that he was a 3 last year, and you don't see that many guys jump 2 numbers. You saw a few guys did this year, but not too many jump from a. You had Jose Iglesias actually went the other way, went from a 1 to a 3. He'd been a 1 for I think 3 or 4 years in a row, jumped to a 3. But so part of it is that. Part of it is probably having talked to the beat writer there and whoever they speak with in Baltimore, who helps just kind of guide them. And, there's only a certain number of 1s, I think also. I think some of it is graded on a curve a little bit. So you're not going to have 8 guys that are ones at shortstop. You might, but probably less likely to have that many in one league.
Actually,
A little bit of a curve grading.
Yeah, that was what I was actually going to chime in, Jerry. It was just sort of the distribution of like the ones, 1, 2, 3s, and 4s, and the number one overall. There was 1,100 ratings, 11 and change ratings, 56 ones across scattered across 170. So say 5%, 15% on the twos, 174. Threes were 351, so about a third, and then fours are 492, which I thought it was interesting seeing the fours versus the twos, just how dominant the fours are, and just basically how many bad defielders there are.
Well, I think what you have though, Dawg, is
you do get a lot of multiples too, right? You get the guys bad and left, bad and right, so it gooses it up a little bit.
Outfielders, right?
Yeah, your average is probably different.
If you play one inning at any position, you get a rating. Now, it might be a 5, but you get a rating if you even play one inning at that position. If you don't play at all, even if you played there in the past, Gleyber Torres doesn't have second base numbers for 2020. It's based just on the year. But he didn't play an inning, but somebody who just like they stuck over there for, a couple of innings at the end, maybe a third baseman, they moved over to second. He's going to get a number there, and it's probably going to be a 5, but every once in a while that becomes a 4. But yeah. So your 4 is also going to be anyone who just is thrown over there. Might be a 4 or a 5. An infielder who's pretty good, who played one inning at another position, will probably be a 4 there. So that skews that a little bit. I think the comparison between 2 and 3 is good to look at because guys who play all the time get 3s. But guys who just get stuck somewhere never get a 3. Rarely. They'll get a 2 at their normal position, and they'll still be a 4 usually at a secondary position if they don't play.
So if you're Uncle Paul or you're my buddy Neil and you're watching, but you didn't catch the beginning, it's our 50th episode. So the Hawaii 5-0, Jerry Milani, our Hawaii 5-0 expert, and we are going over the Strat-O-Matic rating. So if we're talking about some of these numbers for the Strat heads, you know what we're talking about. Oh, there he is. He switches the background to Jack Lord and Dano. For the Strat heads, you know exactly what we're talking about, and for the rest of you, we're kind of decoding it as we go along. And now, why don't we start firing through some of these, and we'll pull up the Red Sox. And again, we're looking at 3s and 4s, and we'll highlight the guys who are better, or maybe some people who you wish were better than they are. But like the first guy, Dawg, that we got to look at here is Jackie Bradley. And Jackie Bradley,
staring right at him.
he's in center field. He's got the 1. He saved 5 runs. And why are we talking? And he holds on to his 1 in center. He's maybe the best center fielder in the game. And the reason why we bring him up here is because in real life, that's my fallback position. Get Trevor Bauer, get Jackie Bradley. Just let Jackie Bradley play center. Let him cover up all of Dominic Smith's, learning curve in left. Let him help out, with Michael Conforto in right. And, bat him 7th or 8th, wherever.
That's a full out.
Just let him go.
He hit 300 in September, so he's 330 in September. I mean, he's not an automatic out that he had been. He might be figuring out. It could just be a month that he did well, but he hit 330 in the month. With some on base.
So Dawg, he's got the 1 right there. He's got the 5 runs saved. Over a 60-game season, right? What does that translate to? 12 over a full year. That's a lot. That's a lot of wood right there. So. He's backing me up. He's backing me up. Strat's backing me up. Let's see. Anybody else?
JD Martinez drawing the 5. I mean, he had a rough year. I don't know. End of the line for JD. I hope not, because he's a really good hitter. But
I'm actually surprised that JD Martinez played right and left. Like I usually he's just like a full-time DH. When the hell did he have time to save a run in left and give up 2 in right? I'm surprised at that.
I just think everybody on that. I mean, that team was kind of in disarray. I think they just had to move people around. Probably, there were injuries.
Wow.
They had to find a way to replace Betts and Wright, and they did a lot of different things.
I got a shock one. How about Trout with the run saved? -9.
And Trout's 2.
And he's a
That's
2?
That's a reputation too.
Yeah, boy, still.
His
That's
numbers are
a shocker.
-9. He played. He plays every inning, every game out there.
How about Dawg just completely jumping ahead
Sorry.
right now?
That's what I do.
we're on the Red Sox, and he's talking about
Mike. Every team. We want to.
I just went to the end of I just started talking to center fielders. Yeah.
Dawg just traded Mike Trout to the Red Sox. Okay, Kevin Pilar. He's a 1 in center. Now, he didn't play the whole year with the Red Sox, but he's a 1 in center, and he's a 2 at the corners where he had previously been a 1 in left. He keeps the 1 in center despite the -4 runs saved. So maybe that, maybe it's a little on the reputation. It's maybe, based on the metrics, it's not so much the metrics. So there, Dawg. I saved your bacon. I segued in. I used Kevin Pilar to do it.
You Excel heads. I sorted on center fielders and just looked at the whole league.
Yeah, I know, but if I do that, then I got to keep sorting back and forth, and I'm trying to do this, and at least I have
like 3 screens going right now.
I have Xavier Rizzo producing. I have Xavier Rizzo producing the show just out of screen, but he's I think he's looking up stuff on eBay right now. So we get it. We got to see. White Sox. Your AL MVP is Jose Abreu, and he gets the 2 at first. Tim Anderson. I think, did he win the batting title behind? No, he was second to LeMahieu. He's a 3 at short. So here you go. He's a 3 at shortstop, but he rakes. So that's a guy who you're like, well, in real life, you'd feel like, okay, I'd take Tim Anderson every day of the week and twice on Sunday. But in Strat, you'd be like, I might take a guy who's just not nearly as good, but is a 2 because he's at short. Or definitely a guy who's a 1.
It also depends how deep your leagues are, right? So when if you're playing a league and it's got 30 teams in it, teams are going to have 4s and 3s playing all over the place, just like in regular baseball. You got to guys got to hit. He's got to play somewhere in the lineup. When we play and we're using 8 teams or 10 teams in a league, and you've got the whole universe of 30 teams to pull from, or back in the day, I guess there were 26 teams when we were playing. So long ago, there were only 26 teams in the league. You wouldn't have to do that. You would have guys. You could have a guy who's a utility guy who's a 1 all over the infield, but you're never going to play him except to come in late innings. And you're going to have a guy, who's a 4, and you're just not going to play him because you don't have to. You have somebody else who's just as good as a 2, because you have those opportunities.
White Sox, you got Adam Engel gets the 1 in every outfield position. And I call that pulling a Steve Finley, because he would, no matter where that guy was, he was always a 1. Gerard Dyson got a 2 everywhere. He was previously a 1 everywhere, but he probably barely played. Anybody else of note on the White Sox? Yasmani Grandal, the 2 behind the plate, but you're not playing that much behind there in terms of the range. It doesn't mean as much in Strat as it does probably in real life. And James McCann, now of the Mets, was a 2 as well. And Dawg, he's got 5 runs saved behind there. Eloy Jimenez, the 4. I was surprised he didn't get a 5, because he's already a DH. He's like on the Vlad Guerrero Jr. fast track to being a career DH over there.
Sometimes if you play enough innings there, and you think normally a guy would be a 5, that you kind of get those he played 40 games out there.
A gentleman's 4.
They keep him a 4. Give him
a
4. In the old days we didn't have 5s. The only way you could be a 5, and when we used to play, was if you put a guy out of position.
Who would ever do that?
Nobody had a 5 on their card.
So you got Luis Robert here. So Dawg, this is something interesting. He gets the 1 in center. With his first card, and of course they go and they get Adam Eaton in the off season, right? Which is a much better deal if you don't have to play Eaton in center, right? And we'll pick up his rating later. And they have some really good defense in the White Sox outfield between Engel and Robert, and listen. If you wanted to play Eloy Jimenez out there, you got other guys who are really going to cover, but he's not really going to have to do that with Eaton there as well. Yolmer Sanchez gets the 2 at second and third as well, and he gets a 4 at short. And then we're on to the Cleveland team. Well, they're still the Indians, right? For another year. Greg Allen gets a 2 in left and center. Let's see if there's anybody else of note. Delano DeShields gets a 2 in center. Mike Freeman, here's an interesting guy. He plays a lot of positions, but none of them really well. He's a 3 in the infield, and
I mean, 3 across the infield, right? That's not bad.
It's not bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not bad. I
Yeah,
thought I
and the
saw. Where's the
versatility
5?
there.
Okay, he's a 5 at first though, which is weird, right?
He
can
probably
play
only
short,
had an inning.
but-
That
Yeah.
usually means 1 inning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cesar Hernandez gets the 1 at second. So it typically what would happen is a guy like that. So there's one, Jerry, that you were talking about. He goes from a 3 to a 1, and the guy's been in the league like 10 years. So like a guy like that in Strat-O-Matic, his value just goes through the roof because there's not probably, I mean, Dawg could tell you exactly how many there are, but depending on how you dice up your set and what you're playing, if you're not playing an exact replay of the teams, like if you throw the guys into a big pool and then you draft and you make teams, the value of a guy like Cesar Hernandez just went way, way, way up. Like he's more valuable in Strat than he is in real life with that 1.
There's a shortstop and a second baseman. Just like in
Chances much
regular
higher.
baseball, if you have a guy there who's getting to everything, and it also turns in Strat-O-Matic, that turns those into double plays. Those ground balls, they turn into double plays in Strat. So instead of a force out, to double play, or instead of an out at first, man advances, it's a double play. Say it's a lot of runs. There's a lot of extra outs, a lot of extra at bats that saves, and it's meant
Jerry,
to replicate. Remember in Strat, it's not always replicating things exactly as they would happen, but over a broader sense of how many runs is that going to save a team? Having a guy like that, it may not necessarily be the double play that he turns or doesn't turn. That's the same thing, but it's the idea that you're going to save an X number of runs, and that's one way that you would.
With the shift and the amount of fly balls that are going on, have they actually thought about or even done moving some of the position, the second base X's, let's say, that you've had so many guys with a shift, or even say shorter third on the other side? Have they actually considered, like, do they have to actually move that?
Yeah.
Whereas historically, they would have stayed there forever as the game changed that much that they actually, to make the stats work.
Yeah, it
actually
does
have to
cause,
bring
I
it back.
believe there are some rules now, some like super advanced rules that you can play as an option. I mean, again, with Strat, you can play all the way from the basic game where everyone just has a fielding rating. And every once in a while, the basic game rating, which lots of people still play the basic game. It's not that like that's for kids and this is for adults. Like there
Just
are players, they just rather play it. It's easier. They can play a game faster. They just want to go through, play a lot of games, and it's still very realistic. All the way up to the super advanced where closers have different ratings as a closer. You can bring a guy in who's a great reliever, but he's not a closer. He gets a closer rating, and that helps him maybe get some outs that he wouldn't get if he's not considered a prime closer. But there is a function in there in the super advanced game that I haven't played. I'm not familiar with it, but I know that they do have something that has accounted for the way shifts are done. And I think it's rating players on shifts. If you do a shift, it changes some ratings in there. But I think it's I don't think.
Does Diaz get like a
training.
bag closer rating?
Well,
High pressure.
You get a rating from N, which is not used as a closer during the season. Doesn't mean you can't, but if you want to play with the realism, you can't use a guy who never closed as a reliever as a closer.
Or you can, you just have the penalty of him being weak to come in that situation.
Right away. So that's the
he's
same.
already,
so it's zero, right? It's the same as if he's a 0, that means he's weak right away. 1 is weak after 1 batter, 2, and it gives you up to, I think, like Mariano would have like a 5. So he would have 5 batters before, you'd have to worry about him getting weak.
Or it's outs. I think it was outs. Those numbers were outs.
Outs,
yeah. So the keystone combination for the Indians, Francisco Lindor, the object of many teams' eyes, perhaps. He gets the 1 at short. He maintains it. So Strat backs up what you see in real life, where he's just an absolute vacuum cleaner. Let's see. Any other ones? Roberto Perez behind the plate gets a 1. He keeps it. Jose Ramirez gives up -2 runs saved and goes from a 1 to a 2 at third. And I hear his name in trade rumors. Franmil Reyes, a guy that Jerry and I like for our fantasy teams for his bat, is a 5 in left. A well-earned 5 in left. And Bradley Zimmer gets a 2 everywhere in the outfield. And then we're on to the Tigers. Let's see. Any 2s on the Tigers? J-Mark Candelario at
Yeah,
third.
Nico Goodrum too pulled down to a 2. We highlighted Nico on the when we did the Twitter. He went from a 3 to a 2.
Okay.
With second and short.
Wow. Yeah. See that. So that throws his value way up. If he could, he becomes a 2 at short and he can run and he has a little power.
You can play the season
And at second too.
with the number of innings that guys played at positions, or like when we played it, if a guy had the number there, you could put him there. So if someone wanted to put, for example, George Brett at shortstop with his 4, they could do that.
40-48.
They did that. Boomer did that. Let's see. Jacoby Jones gets the 2 in center. He keeps it despite the -2 on the run saved category. Cameron Maybin a 3 in right. I kind of feel like he's usually a little bit better than that, but he's still a 3. He probably used to be a 1 back in the day. I think he was like when I was playing all the time. He was like always a 1.
Yeah, he was very good to outfield.
Yeah.
Never gonna forget his contribution to the Yankees though in 19.
Yeah,
everything.
He was
they
great.
Pulled him out of the pile. He was playing for Columbus, and they pulled him out of Columbus from the Indians, and they just got him. Like they just bought him. He was just there, and they took him, and he became such an important guy.
Jonathan Scope 2 at second. He keeps it for the Tigers. So the Tigers got some. They got some hope. Okay, now Uncle Paul's ears will perk up because we're gonna translate what George Springer's rating means, and in center and right, he's a 2. So again, now that your ears are perked up, what that means is again he's very good. He's above average, but he's not at the top flight. And as a center fielder, he saved 6 runs, but as a right fielder, he had a -3 runs saved. Dog, very interesting.
Houston this year, how much right field did he play?
He played a lot. He was in there a lot. He'd move within games.
And the positions are different. I mean, there are the guys who can play. You get a Mike Talkman or somebody like that. Just I'm familiar with watching him play. Who can really play all 3 outfield positions, like not fake it out there. Really play all 3. It's hard. Those are 3 distinct positions, and there are guys who can really play in real life, left or right field, who can't play the other one. And then center fielders who just are better at center. They're just better there than at another position. It's not common. You would think that the way the tree goes, the defensive tree, that left field and right field are way behind center, but there are certain guys who are just better at center than a corner.
Dog. George Springer is now a 2. Okay? So let's say you sign him to a 4 or 5 year deal. How long does he hold on to that 2 in center?
Here we go. Riz is just grinding away on George Springer on the.
This is what everybody wants to know. They want to know, Dog. They hear you all the time.
It's a fair one. I mean, you make a good point. I mean, as we start to go through some of the the 30s center fielders, right? We were sort of looking historically and how different guys did. Andrew Jones, for example. When you're 33, 34, Father Time's undefeated, right? And you typically don't want to be on the hold up in center field. So it's fair to say the back half of his career, you have to consider him as a corner outfielder.
Is he? How old is he though? Is he 30? He's 26.
Springer, he's going to be 30. He'll
be 31 June.
Yeah,
something like that.
Yeah.
I'm up late because I feel like he's just gotten here.
I know, but he wasn't that young when he broke
17 Astros, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean that's fair. I mean, like I said, you probably get 3 years that he'll be in center. Better than average. Okay. probably a 3, year 3, right? And then
Or what about year 2? What about next year? I mean, even
but not-
Beltran.
stop,
Remember
stop.
Beltran?
You just don't want them to get him.
I don't not want. I think that they'd be way better off with Trevor Bauer, but Uncle Paul wants him in center. He said it. He's in the comments.
Yeah, it's but again, it's very interesting. Like just looking at dispassionately as a strat head, and the Bradley somebody else versus Springer somebody else. That might say, you know what, if I can swing, if I can get basically better defense at Bradley right away and save a lot of dough and roll that over to somebody else on the pitching side.
See, Bradley.
Is Bradley and Bauer better than Springer and
Yes,
Tanaka?
yes. Of course.
He's also going into his age 31 season, and then as soon as he's not a center fielder, unless this September was not a mirage, he's not going to be as valuable at 33 than Springer.
He's also going to cost you 1 or 2 years on a contract, and a tenth of what you're going to pay Springer. So are you punting the center field problem? Maybe
in 2 years is Springer, Brandon Nimmo. Right? Maybe Nimmo gets slightly better. He's a 3. He's younger. Right? He's not really going to atrophy. He'll probably get slightly better. He's just playing it more. Right? So he'll probably go from 4 to a 3, and hit well. Springer will hit better. Right,
I mean,
but he might be a 3 as well, 2 or 3 years from now.
Springer's OPS career is 131. That's 31% over average. That's really good.
Yeah, and he's got a
Especially when he knows
playoff
what's
track
coming.
Record over average.
Clong.
It was 140 this abbreviated year, 51.
So the thing is, but he's also going to be, on a decline.
Yep,
right?
That's always the tough one.
So that's the he's not gonna if you could project him to be at that level for another 4 years, then yeah, it's easy, but it's not. Again, my caveat is always Bauer. It's that if you sign Springer and that prevents you from signing Bauer, then I'd rather sign Bauer. If signing both guys is not an issue, as Uncle Paul says in the comments, Steve Cohen has no limits. I mean, Uncle Paul doesn't care. It's not his money. Uncle Paul, you're writing checks that your owner can't cash, or he can cash. You just might not want. He might not want to. But look, I mean, the Astros are playing. Miles Straw got a 2 in center, like to start with. I mean, you got guys that are already playing there on his own team. Let's also just close out the Astros. Yuli Gurriel with the 1 maintained at first. Altuve, Dawg, and Jerry goes from a 2 to a 3 at second. Michael Brantley, very interesting free agent that we haven't talked about much at all. He had pulled the 3 and left, but he falls back to a 4. Alex Bregman, he's the perennial 1 at third. Doesn't have the shortstop numbers. Carlos Correa goes from
How about that infield?
Carlos Correa goes from a 2 to a 1.
3 1s and a 3.
Yeah, and
pretty good infield.
And Aledmus Diaz is like the jack of all trades there.
That's
He's
a
4
78
everywhere.
Yankees kind of infield.
Yeah.
You had Nettles, Dent, Randolph were all 1s. And then you had Chambliss with, I think, gave him a 3, but he was pretty good first baseman. They gave him a 3, but that's, when you get that 3 1s and a 3 in your infield, you can't really do better than that.
Even Martin Maldonado, a 2 behind the plate, and again, that doesn't make so much of a difference for a catcher.
My team was terrible. Turn ton double plays, hit into him too.
Kyle Tucker, a 3 in left and a 4 in right. I feel like he has a chance to get way better as a fielder too. So.
That's an interesting one, Jerry. Like just looking at Bregman real quick, right? He's a 1, always been a 1, -1 on the run saved.
I mean, he came up as a he was going to be a shortstop, but they didn't have a place at shortstop for him. So he went over and played third, and he's just a third baseman now.
There's a lot of people who say he's their best shortstop even right now.
Might even be
it's a Jeter A-Rod fielding situation over there, but but both guys are probably I don't know if either guy's better fielder than A-Rod, but they're both probably better fielders than Jeter, but I don't know. Jeter was a clutch fielder, though. He was much maligned for his fielding, but
here we go.
But Healy could suck it. Healy, suck it.
Well,
Suck
remember
it.
with Jeter
Here we go.
Jeter played so many years at shortstop.
The numbers aren't real.
That he had he played so many years at shortstop that the last 6 years, his numbers were put him at below average shortstop, but he played many years not as a below average shortstop, but he played so many years as a below average shortstop that we saw him not get the balls up the middle, that you almost forgot about like the first 5 or 6 years where he wasn't defensively where he was when he was third. Because you know what? How many other shortstops are 32 and 33 and 36 and 37? There aren't any, because they moved them off shortstop. He just never moved off shortstop.
Literally ever. I don't think he ever played another position in his. Did he? I don't think he
did not. 0 games
ever played outside. Well, he DH'd. He DH'd, but that's not a position.
Sounds like a prima donna.
He was still getting. He was still getting.
A-Rod's a selfless player. A-Rod moved over for the benefit of the team. The dog was having fun with it.
All right.
Let's see. We'll do a couple of Royals for our pal Carroll. Hunter Dozier gets the 2 at first, but he's a 4 at third and in left, but a 3 in right. Michael Franco, he's a 3
Franco
at
got
third.
A 3 at third base.
Down from a 4.
Better. Yeah, he's been a 4. I mean, he's a guy I always liked, and I think they non-tendered him, so I think he's just out there now.
Yeah,
he's a guy I always liked. I think he's a really good hitter. I even think he's okay in the field.
Yeah, he's going to catch on somewhere.
He's gonna get on somewhere.
Alex Gordon retires with his 2 in left. Let's see, Nick Heath at 2 in center. That's not bad. And Nicky Lopez gets the 1 at second, and he's a 4 at third and a 3 at short. So Nicky Lopez's value is going up.
I don't know if I saw the Royals. So it's a really weird year where I watch all the Yankee games, and Dawg, you watch all the Met games, and Riz, you probably watch most of both. We didn't see the Central Division this year.
I know.
Like Kansas City that didn't make the playoffs. I try to watch a game here and there that's not involving the Yankees, but they played every day for 60 days. Like you weren't even days off. I didn't see Royals, so I don't know. Any. There's a lot of guys on here that I didn't see play at all.
Well, a guy that Strat players are always interested in is Whit Merrifield. He gets the 2 at his primary position of second base. He gets a 4 at first, 3s in center and left, and a 2 in right. So the very valuable and versatile Whit Merrifield. Adalberto Mondesi with the 1 at short. So look at the Royals with the 2, with the second baseman 1 and a shortstop 1. That's a good, building block to go forward on. Salvador Perez, a 1 behind the plate. Again, not as important, but that's pretty good up the middle. Maybe that means the Royals are a potential breakout team. Bubba Starling, 2 in center. I don't know how much he's going to play, but
it'd be nice if they wouldn't have to play Soler in the outfield, because he's a really good hitter. He's better than I thought that he got. That when they brought him over.
He's a 4 and right.
Better.
But he hits enough to be a 4 and right. Yeah. He's like one of those guys where as long as he's not a 5, you're like, okay, I could.
It's interesting if you look at Baltimore, look at across the whole team, and sum up across. Again, this is just taking the players, right? So it's not just breaking out by inning or whatnot. They're actually 5th from the bottom in defense for runs saved. So you have Toronto, the Angels, the A's, the Tigers, and then the Royals are 5th from the bottom.
Interesting. I wonder if
which I would totally not have gotten in, especially even just talking to ratings we were talking about.
Yeah.
Some of which may get skewed, right? So you may have 1 or 2 guys who don't play a lot. They have a -2 or 3 in some blowout game. They give up some runs or something. But
yeah, it's probably a lot of 4 innings in the outfield, I would say, that lead to that, right?
Yeah, and this year you had so many. I mean, some teams played so many guys, with guys dropping off, and being able to have a roster with 30 guys on it for part of the year and 28 for most of the year, you could have those guys who could just play a couple of garbage innings to save some legs.
We look at the Angels. Joe Adell, the hot prospect who came out to such an incredibly awful start and then finally hit, I think, a walk-off homer in one of the late games of the season. He starts his career with a 4 in center and right. -4 runs saved and right. Wow, he was struggling.
This is a bad game.
Franklin Barreto, who I thought was like such an awesome prospect for the A's, he's like a 4 everywhere in the infield.
No, it's not.
Let's
They
see.
never seem to have enough like that to put a team together. I mean, you got Simmons and you got Trout and you got
Well, David Fletcher gets the 2 at second and third, the 3 at short, and then, for some reason they found a reason to stick him in right at some point where he gets a 4. But he's been a very underrated player for them. Let's see. Dawg jumped ahead on Trout, who gets the 2. But Anthony Rendon keeps the 1 at third. He just has to keep himself healthy now. Andrelton Simmons, the 1 at short, he keeps, but he's a free agent, and he's, they've moved on from him because they get every guy with the same name from the Iglesias family apparently now. Let's see, where was Trout there? Okay, yeah, Trout. So Trout, keeps the 2, and like Dawg said, with the -9 on the run saved. At first, you're thinking like
That's eye-popping.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it would be hard to like.
Like he played in center
then
and
drop
right.
Drop that 3 on him, but like, I mean, I don't know. Mike Trout's the kind of guy you watch him play the outfield, and you don't like look right away and say he's like a great outfielder because he's stocky but he gets to stuff. I'm surprised with the -9, but that's a real number. That's not a. The 2 is the made up number. The -9 is the real number.
Yeah, and he keeps the 2.
That sounds like he pulled a boomer and airmailed a bunch of throws somewhere. He's got a T rating in the outfield or something.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I don't think that affect. I don't think errors come into that. I'm not sure with how they calculate that.
Yeah, I mean that it's got to be a range rating.
I think errors would have to be. I'm not sure if it was.
Yeah, that's a range. That's a range rating.
I think
errors.
That's a range rating. I don't think that the errors come into play there.
I think defensive runs. I think runs saved is actually. I think that's a
big number. For a while.
Like that's a non-strat number, right? That's a like a.
That's
Saber?
a calculated number.
Yeah, exactly, like a Saber number. Yeah.
Now, Fangraphs and Baseball Reference have different methodologies.
Yeah.
Their defensive ratings. One of
them a follow-up on that.
Fielding Bible, and one of them uses their own. I don't know which is which. Yeah. They're not the same. But look, I mean, it's more advanced than ever. I mean, they go back and look at 1934, and all they go by is how many putouts per 9 innings, and they can be a little more advanced based on the pitchers, but not too much. Like it's just there aren't as many numbers to go by. Now everything is tracked to the foot and percentage of catch, and if a ball is hit like that, and they're starting to really build a library of how many balls are hit different ways, and that's all that. Those numbers are only going to get better.
Yeah.
People a lot of times look at the defensive numbers with a little bit of rose-colored glasses, but.
Look, I'm going in defense of Trout right now. He's playing behind.
That seems rough.
He's playing behind a pitching staff that's giving up snot rockets every inning here. I mean, come on, that's the worst pitching staff known to man. I mean, these guys are, what about, like, are they calculating the exit velo of the balls that are flying over Trout's head that he can't get to, and the ones that, like, he's staring over.
Strong pitching staff.
He's staring over at his broken down buddy Justin Upton, who who's a 4 and left now, and Joe Adell, he's trying to help him along and right. He's like a 7 or 5 or whatever.
Yeah, no.
I mean, he's a 4.
You want me to get that one?
Yeah, dude, I'm Mike Trout. Can somebody get a ball? Do I have to do everything for this team?
Like Kelly Leak out in center field.
Yeah, he's like Kelly Leak in center field. They should just have Rendon play out there with him and just take everybody else off the field.
We gotta do that one day. You got to go through and go through all your favorite heroes from movies and say what their ratings would be. He would have been a 1.
Oh yeah, he would have been a 1. He was like Steve Finley, man. He was a 1 everywhere.
Buttermaker would have been a 1 manager, or a 4 depending on what when he woke up. He started as a 4 and he finished as a 1.
Okay, Twinkies. Um, Luis Arias gets the 4 at second. I kind of thought he would have been better, but
Look at
Byron
Byron
Buxton.
Buxton.
Yeah.
Kepler got
Jumping off the screen on that one, huh?
Byron Buxton, 10 runs saved and a 1 in center that he maintains. He can't stay on the field.
He's
everything. Yeah. If that guy could stay on the field, I mean, he would just be phenomenal.
Right. He only has to hit 250 and get on base 300 and play center field like that.
He'd run, but I mean, he just.
And then look, and you put Kepler. They got Kepler with a 1 in right field. First time he's had a 1.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good outfield. I don't know who's left field now for them. Dick Cave played a lot of left field, but who's the leader? Eddie Rosario is a left fielder.
Yeah, but he's gone.
Yeah.
They let him walk. They tried to save $10 million on him. So Josh Donaldson goes from a 1 to a 2 at third. He's still good. So he's a guy, Dawg, where you say Josh Donaldson. That goes back to our third baseman discussion. So if Josh Donaldson is a guy that's like a 1 and he's got to be pushing 35 now, right? Or close. And so that gives you hope that a guy like Arenado is still, which we both think he will be. Like Arenado as a fielder and Donaldson, I mean, Arenado is better already as a fielder than Donaldson ever was, and Donaldson's really good. Yeah. So I would think that, you look at a comp like that, and you're like, okay, he's going to still give you that defense if you do, make that trade and you have him until he's 35.
Third base defense doesn't degrade as quickly as shortstop defense.
Yeah, that's what we were talking last show.
Third, right? I mean,
yeah. If you were Chipper, like
Nettles was a good third baseman even when he was on the Padres, and when he was on the Padres, it was 35, I think, when he was on the Padres. That the one like World Series year, and by that later he played mostly first base, but he could still play third base and be. Well, there aren't that many guys you look at and man, you can't play that guy at third if you could ever have played third.
Yeah. Chipper was one that I was using last time as an example. And that was something like Arenado was like mapping towards.
Right. If you're a good third baseman,
if you tell me he's going to be like Chipper for the next 5 years.
Third base, first base. Guys are good there. They're good there.
Yeah.
Yep.
But it's more valuable at third to be a good fielder.
Absolutely.
It's
Yankees.
It's on a 4 instead of a 3 for you.
Yankees, here we are. Yankees, Miguel Andujar, a 4 at third and 5 in left.
It's interesting. Lefty didn't play that much left, and you could see he looked like a 5, but he looks like a 5 at third also.
Yeah,
I guess he played enough innings that they gave him the 4.
Tough coming back,
like 5 at third. I felt he's still coming back from the injury and stuff, and he was never great, but I felt like he was getting better the year that in 18. At third, if he looked like a little more comfortable, I watched him a lot, but he didn't look comfortable at all last year, and then they just put him in the outfield. And
three ones out there for the Yanks.
I've seen a little bit. I saw a highlight of him. He made a really nice catch in the the Dominican League, whatever league he's in now, a running catch. He was almost in left center field, and he came all the way over and caught the ball at almost the line. It's a play that I know you wouldn't have seen him make last year. So there's something to be said for playing a lot and working hard. Apparently he works hard at it, but you got, never played the outfield.
My mind's about to be blown on this one. How in the world does Clint Frazier have 4 runs saved?
hold
No,
on.
He played,
and he's still the 4.
No, you should have seen him. He really worked hard. He really played a good right field. I would have thought 3, not 4.
Yeah,
if you saw him in 19,
that run save says that.
He was a disaster in 2019. He was not last year. He made a lot of diving plays. He made plays on balls in the gap. He played a lot of right field because Judge was out. He played right field that whole time. It took him a little while. The Yankees a little while to figure out that he was their right fielder, and when they did, they left him out there. He got better and better. He really did work hard at it. I think the concussion was the reason he was a bad outfielder in 2019.
So here's the crazy thing, right? So we always say Strat, imitates life, but in this case, Clint Frazier goes from being a 5 in left and right, which is really, really bad, to being a
For someone who
four,
played.
to being a four in left and right, but he's a finalist for the Gold Glove.
I mean, maybe they're not ready to give him a 3. Like, I don't know. Maybe they talk to I don't know. Maybe they're just not ready to give him a 3. I don't know what that means, but like, I feel like every season should be independent.
Actually, this season is tough, right?
I didn't feel like he was a 4 out there, but they may also have thought he wasn't enough to show them that he deserved a 3. I guess I felt like he would have been a 3. Would have been the right number for him.
Gleyber Torres. Ooh. That
So
hurts.
yeah,
That 3 to a 4 is short.
Dawg,
That
Dawg,
hurts. That hurts. -6. That's no lie too.
He doesn't. I mean, Riz, you watch a lot of the games too. He doesn't feel like a shortstop to me.
Yeah.
No, he didn't last year.
He's only 24. I mean, he can still be a shortstop.
He
24?
he doesn't look comfortable there. I'll tell you what too.
No.
We'll look at DJ LeMahieu. Apparently, Dawg, the Mets made a little call to the LeMahieu camp to check in, wish him Merry Christmas.
Gleyber was 23. Like, he's going to be 24. Like, he can still do it, but he doesn't. I don't look at him and like Didi. You look at Didi. Didi's a shortstop. Like, that's what a shortstop looks like. The way he goes in the hole. His numbers don't always show, but he looks like a shortstop to me.
Yeah, Gleyber. We talked about this on last night's show. Previewing the fact that he was dropped down from a 3 to a 4 at short, and as I said, I think Dawg. The way I was saying it was, or was it even last week? No, it was this week's show. And it's if you told me that over the next 10 years, Gleyber Torres was going to win 5 Gold Gloves at second base, I'd say, okay, that's maybe that's possible. If you told me that he was going to win 5 Gold Gloves at shortstop over the next 10 years, I would tell you you're out of your mind.
Yeah, I remember you guys talking about that, and he didn't feel like a liability at second base. I felt comfortable, like, okay, that's a good spot, second base. He looks like. Young players sometimes that you forget that they even played another position. I forgot that he came up as a shortstop because he thought he played a decent second base, and now I watch him at shortstop, and I mean he played a lot of shortstop in 19 because Didi was out all that time, and he was their shortstop, and I didn't feel terrible about him as a shortstop, but I guess because I knew he was moving, eventually going back to second. But last year he played every inning he played was at shortstop, and he just. It just doesn't look right. It just there's something that feels wrong. We've watched 40-something years of baseball, all of us have, and it just didn't.
Yeah, him at shortstop feels wrong. that's it. It's not the something. It's just that him at shortstop just totally feels wrong.
But
the wrong is him.
It's work. It's things that can be. Again, he's going to be 24. So. Let's see.
So LeMahieu gets a call from the Mets, apparently, allegedly.
How you doing, DJ?
He gets the 1 at second. He gets a 2 at first, and a 2 at third. That does not pass the eye test for me. I did not see a guy who was a 1 at second last year. I think he's probably fine as a 2 at third. I think he's like a 4 at first. Like, I don't think he is a good first baseman. Jerry, maybe you could disagree. You also saw every inning. We didn't see them in person, but sometimes that could change your mind. But
it is different. Yeah.
He does not look like. I feel like he has lost a little bit. I don't think he's bad. I just don't think he's a 1 at second. But some of these other guys, they're getting 1s, so. He's maintained it over there, and he's been a Gold Glover before. Urshela goes from a 2 to a 1 at third. That completely passes the eye test. He gets the 6 runs saved, as opposed to Gleyber, who has the 6 runs, -6 runs saved. So maybe it was just between those two guys who played, almost all the innings over there on the left side of the infield. Judge maintains the 1 in right. Brett Gardner goes from a 1 to a 2 in left and a 2 to a 3 in center. So he held out his 2 in center for a while. Jerry, like you said before, Aaron Hicks has -7 on the run saved, but he still maintains a 2 in center.
It feels like a reputation, and we've watched Aaron Hicks now, and he's been injured and this and that, but I love Aaron Hicks as a player. I think but there's something I feel like I think 3 would be the right number for him.
Yeah.
But I get the 2. I mean, he makes spectacular. I mean, that Minnesota play. I mean, I was up. That game was like 1:00 in the morning by the time that game ended 2 years ago. The 14-13 game, and the motion going up and down. He makes that play. That's a 1 kind of play. Like that's very rare. You have to get a jump on the ball. There's a lot of things I think maybe that go into that. Sometimes I watch him and I feel like, maybe he's not a 2, but I guess it's a reputation number he's getting there.
We're getting into this kind of long. We might have to speed this up.
I was gonna say, I'm like, I know we spend all the time in the Mets or whatever. I'm like, we're spending like an hour and a half on the AL.
Honestly,
I know.
Night. Well, Dawg was trying to move us along. Maybe we just, we go a little deeper on the Mets when we get to the Mets.
Yeah, we will. Okay, so we'll go.
We'll just sort of talk like the ones, the best defensive run saves and the worst, and then
let me. I'll just go quickly.
I'll
go quickly through the rest of the American League. Matt Chapman gets the 1 at third for the A's. Let's see. I'm just looking. Ramon Laureano, a 2 in center for Oakland. Sean Murphy behind the plate is a 2. Matt Olson gets the 1 at first. So the Mats on the corners in Oakland maintain their 1s. Let's see. Oh wait, Simeon, Dawg. We're right. We wanted Simeon. He falls from a 2 to a 3 at third. So, we were talking about him as a possible free agent stopgap, like if LeMahieu walked somewhere else and the Yankees wanted to sign like a Marcus Simeon, I was in favor of that if I feel like he's going to go back to the 2019 Marcus Simeon where he was a 2. I feel like the 3 is probably an aberration, so I wouldn't be surprised to see him go back.
That's what's hard with these ratings for this year is it's based on 2 months, and you can pick players every year that for 2 months are different than they are for the full season.
Yep.
There's going to be some guys that is Gleyber Torres, that he had a terrible year. Is that him? I hope not, because or is he 18-19 Gleyber Torres? What happened? I mean, Cashman came out and said he was a little out of shape. Like Marcus Simeon, I thought in 19 he's almost an MVP.
Yep.
19. I mean, that was and from a guy who like threw the ball all over the infield earlier in his career.
All right, Mariners. J.P. Crawford gets the 1 at short. Let's see. Shed Long gets a 5 in left. He's really a second baseman, but he's only a 4 at second. A lot of 4s. The Mariners. That shouldn't surprise you. Let's see. Anybody? Kyle Seager gets a 2 at third. Malik Smith, I think he's in Met camp this year. He's a 4 in center and right, and he's the guy that you say, well, sometimes you just can't outrun your mistakes. That's Malik Smith, I guess. Like he's really, really fast, but he might not be able to field that well. D, formerly Gordon, but now D Strange Gordon gets a 2 at second, a 3 at short, and a 4 in left. Evan White, the rookie first baseman, I was high on him. He gets a 1, so he's probably better in real life than he is in fantasy. Now, the American League champs, the Rays, Willie Adames, Dawg, gets the 1 at short. Randy Arozarena, he's a 3 in left, a 4 in center, and a 3 in right. Mike Brousseau.
Kiermaier with the 11 runs saved.
And
a 1 in center field.
Kiermaier, and he's the other guy that passes. That him and Buxton, they're neck and neck. They're like either one of those guys. I would put in center field and just let them. And Jackie Bradley Jr. They're 1A, 1C. All 3 of those guys.
Jim Choi with a 2 seems a little.
No, he's. Oh my God, he's like
I only saw him in the playoffs. In fairness,
he's a really good.
He's really good, and
we got to see it a little in the playoffs. And I think when he didn't play first because they didn't bat him against lefties.
Okay, I didn't get to see him enough then. All right,
no,
I just saw him. I'm like, he wasn't jumping off the screen to me.
Yeah, no, I love that guy.
Oh, he's the
get away. Forget he was on the Yankees.
I know. He's the patron. He's the patron saint of fat guys being able to play baseball, man.
He is
he's Roy Nelson. He's Roy. There's an MMA reference.
Still saying the 2's a gift, but all right, that's fine.
No, I think he'll be a 1 at some point. He's
Yeah,
really
you should watch
good.
him play more. You should watch
You
him
got to
play
watch
more.
him
Remember,
play.
All right, okay,
that
all right.
takes into consideration the range is not just like how fast you get left and right, but like he positions, he gets the balls, he knows where to go, he gets good jumps at first, he saves a lot of run. I mean, I don't know how they factor that in, but man, he scoops, he stretches. You see him stretch.
Yeah, stretch is good.
Fat guy stretch. He's a good fat guy stretcher, and he's always smiling and happy. And he's one of my favorite players.
Yeah, he's awesome. Brandon Lau gets the 2 at second. He plays.
Yeah, I think they're all the positions.
He plays. You know, he has the 4 in left, right, and first, but he'll play anywhere. In Nashville during the winter, working on his hitting. Nate Lowe, not Lau, who's gone, actually. I think he's on Texas now. He gets a 4 at first and a 5 at third. Oh, Manuel Margot gets the 2 everywhere in the outfield. Let's see. Austin Meadows a 3 in the corner outfield.
The Austin Meadows, that's a guy like he's going to have a much better 2021.
Yeah.
This is a wash year for that guy. He's going to be really good.
And he's on the Red Sox now, right? Oh, no, that's Hunter Renfroe is on the Red Sox. I always get those guys confused. Well, he's the lefty version of Hunter Renfroe. Yeah, so Hunter Renfroe gets the 2 in right, and he gets a 4 at first, but he's a really good outfielder. Like, he could play. I think he could even play center for you. Tsutsugo gets a 4 at third and a 4 in left. Joey Wendell, a 2 at second and a 2 at third, a 4 at short. Zanino, who I think they just brought back, he's a 1 behind the plate, very well earned. And now we're on to Texas. We're starting to cruise here a little bit more.
Joey Gallo getting totally hooked up.
That's our guy.
Yeah, we were talking before we got on about Joey Gallo, and I just didn't watch Texas play, but I just don't think of Joey Gallo in those terms. But 13 runs doesn't lie. I just didn't see him play.
Yeah, Joey Gallo
3 to a 1. I mean, that's like almost unheard of.
Yeah, in right field, he goes from a 3 to a 1, and he has 13 runs saved at the position, which I think is the highest on this list. So very impressive. And look, he's grown up as a hitter too. He's not just a complete K homer guy. He's not, 190 with 30 homers and 582 at bats. He's he walks a lot. He plays good D. He runs a little bit. I mean, he's taken a while to cook, but he's pretty much there. Ronald Guzman gets a 2 at first. Let's see. Oh, Jerry. Isaiah Kiner Falafa.
Yeah,
he gets a 1. He got a 1 at third. He got a 1 at third.
He got a 1
3 to a 1.
And he's a 3 at short. But he didn't catch last year?
No, he did not catch last year. He went from being primary catcher, or primarily for him a catcher, and he did not play an inning at catcher, and he went out to be a catcher and then go find an infield position and excel there like he did. I didn't see him play, but if he went from a 3 to 1, and the 3 was from not a lot of innings at 3, that might be part of why he's 3 to a 1. He was really a catcher almost exclusively, and maybe played a little bit in the infield. And look, they moved him, and there he is.
Yeah, I mean, like, yep. and he's, what is he, Ralph Kiner's grandson?
Ralph Kiner. Well, I did the Ralph Kiner but Ralph Kiner is usually a 4, but Isaiah is a 1.
How about Elvis Andrews at short, going from the 2 to a 3? That hurts.
Yeah, that hurts. He could get that 2 back. I think
that's an aging curve thing. I think, or it could just be the year. But like he's a lifetime 1 and 2.
Yeah, he's a good player.
Let's see. Jeff Mathis behind the plate is a 2, and I think that's pretty much.
Also Texas, Toronto.
Leody Tavares gets a 2 in center, 5 runs saved. So between your center and your right fielder, you got a lot of runs saved. Nick Solak was -6 runs saved in center when he played there, so. He's got
Toronto, no 1s at all.
Let's see.
Right.
Oh, yeah. I know. That's good. Toronto, no 1s at all. On to the next team. Okay, so Bo Bichette, right? You got to go over the Major League Suns. Bo Bichette
Look
gets
at
a
all of that.
Dante.
gets a
Bichette,
4 at
Guerrero,
short.
yeah.
Kevin Biggio is a 4 everywhere. Second, third, left, center, and right.
You like that, like the makings of that team when you watch them. You think, oh, they got a lot of young players. They're exciting, whatever. They're all 4s and 5s. Like in Strat, that's a rough go when you're starting shortstop as a 4.
Yeah.
It looks like the lumber.
It's also your shortstop. That's your shortstop of the future. Like that's a shortstop. They're not moving him, right? I mean,
Yeah, I mean Vlad Guerrero was a third baseman. He played first only last year, and he's a 5. So he's headed for the DH.
He's eating himself out of the league, I think. I mean,
No, well, I don't know. I heard he's on a program. I don't know. That could just be Instagram.
I hope so.
Instagram. I don't read the Spanish that well, but I follow all the Spanish guys on Instagram.
Program.
Lourdes in left field. The 3 is Lourdes Gurriel. Teoscar Hernandez, a 4 in center and right. So you got to get like somebody. I mean, look, is there a need for George Springer, Dawg? Yes, but how are they going to pay him? They're not going to pay him.
That's the rumor is Toronto and the Mets, right? That's the kind of.
If I'm the Mets, I say, you know what? Get an offer from Toronto. Call us.
Yep. And
Until then, okay, we'll wait. We'll see. Jackie's still there.
I have Dogs back. Jonathan VR, a 4 in the middle infield positions. I mean, that's tough. All right.
Uncle Paul wants us before we go. Uncle Paul wants us to rate Voit at first for the Yankees.
Yeah, he wasn't listening. He wasn't listening that hard. He's a 4. Jerry talked about him a little bit before.
I feel like I feel like that's the right number. I don't like him at first.
He's not that good. He's not that bad. I mean,
not a 5, but he's not. He's not better than a 4.
Mike Ford's also a 4 there, so. I don't know.
But see that's where when Strat, like I guess maybe the E rating or something. Or I don't know how many errors they each made. I feel like Voit is a better first baseman than Ford.
Yeah, but usually
But you've only got 1, 2, 3, 4. Like you can't get that detailed, or the game would be. You can't do 1 to 10. You get crazy doing that. So 1 to 4, he's still a 4. He's a low 4. He's like a 3.7, right? And Ford would be like a 4.3.
Yeah.
So they're both 4s, but like they're not the same.
Is that on the chart?
No, but that's my feeling. That's how I feel about it.
Should be though.
It's a rounded up to 4 and a rounded down to 4.
It's a 13. Come on, he probably got it.
Rounded down to.
All right, so if you're stuck in Arizona like Boomer and Schmitty, you're happy about Nick Ahmed, who's a 1 at short. Cole Calhoun with the nice rebound season gets a 2 in right. Eduardo Escobar, he loses the 1 at third and becomes a 3. That's rough.
Hurts.
And he loses the 2 at second and becomes a 4. And he didn't hit nearly as well either. Let's see. Anybody else worth noting?
John Jay. Is that the John Jay of Cross River or the John Jay of East Fishkill?
I think the old Cardinal is who we're referring to there.
Yeah. Kettle 1 Marte is a 2 at second and a 3 at short and center.
Where he's hitting now is the East Fishkill.
David Peralta goes from a 2 to a 3 in left. And everybody else looks like a 4.
Dalton Varsho related to Gary Varsho?
I think that's his son. I'm pretty sure it's his son. Oh, Christian Walker goes from a 3 to a 2 at first. So that's good news.
I don't know if I saw at all.
Yeah, with the package, I was watching
maybe
some of these games.
Maybe if they were playing San Diego, because every once in a while I
I was literally about to say that. Because I watched a lot of the Padres games. Braves, Acuna Matata is a 3 once again in right center.
Means no worries.
Yeah, which
Freddie,
I don't.
Freddie Freeman won first again.
Yeah, Freddie. Ozzy Albies 1 at second.
Look at Travis d'Arnaud.
Yeah, I was going to say, Dawg,
somehow
how you like
banging
that
out a
Travis
-7.
4? How do you liking that now, Dawg?
He still killed us.
Better about it
He
now?
still killed us against the Mets, at least. But boy, oh boy.
Adam
That's
Duvall.
That's no lie at -7.
Adam Duvall, Mr.
He killed the Yankees too. Remember, everything came up with a home run. It was off.
Mr. Three Homer game, Adam Duvall, a 2 in left again and a 3 in right, so not bad there. Freeman and Albies, 1's on the right side. Ender and Ciarte goes from a 1 to a 2 in center. I feel like that 1 is probably back in his future again somewhere. He's just so good.
Another funny one here, just kind of taking the table on here, but looking at the bottom 4 teams in the NL, again, just using the defensive run saved across, which probably adjusts a little bit for innings, whatever. So 4th on the bottom is Atlanta, then the Mets, then the Phillies, then the Nationals. I'm actually somewhat shocked on the 4 of them sitting down there, all down at the bottom. Not all with the Mets, but I'm actually surprised.
You know what? It's
Atlanta's
also sample size. I just think the 60-game sample size skews so much of this. I mean, if you play, it's like watching an NFL.
And the runs, this is based on runs saved, though.
If you watch 5 games of an NFL season, 6 games of an NFL season, you kind of know who the best teams are, but like you'd think the Steelers after 6 games were going to be, one of the best teams, and right now they look like they're not, because you everything, some things even out over a long period of time where they don't. And look, NL Central, AL Central, they play just within their division. So the AL Central, there were 3 kind of mad teams in there.
That's fair.
Bauer put whatever numbers he put up, but they're against they're against the NL Central. So I don't know.
And Marcelo Zun is a 4 in left and right. That's not happening again. He's a 5. Christian Pache, the kid, he gets the 2 in left. I thought he might actually end up being a 1. Panda, Pablo Sandoval, a 3 at first. Who would have thought? And then Dansby Swanson goes from a 3 to a 2. He's like totally a 1.
Pablo used to be a 2 though.
Yeah, he did.
Like misshapen, he was still again, that's a guy that
soft
he's
hands.
always going to be useful in the field. Like he looks like he's not, but if you got hands, and you know what you're doing,
decent arm,
still going to be useful.
I think the arm has come down a little bit. He can't gun guys out that he used to be able to.
I don't know. Dansby Swanson is a 1 to me. I don't know how was ever even a 3, but he's now a 2, and he'll be a 1 next year.
His career is on track now.
Yeah,
it took a little while, but he's on track.
Cubs, Albert Almora Jr. loses his 1 in center, becomes a 2. Javi Baez keeps the 1 at shortstop. Dawg, Chris Bryant, 4 at first, 3 at third, 4 in left. What does it mean? Keep him at third. That's what it means, right? Like, stop fucking around. Like, just keep the guy at third. Wilson Contreras, 2 behind the plate. Billy Hamilton gets the 1 in center. Who would have thunk? Didn't he play for 3 teams last year or 4 teams?
The
Mets. He scored the winning run against the Yankees.
National. Remember, they'll give you a rating, and you'll get a National and American League. So if you stay within the league, you'll get the same rating for that team. But if you move, like Cameron Maben was on 2 different teams in 2 different leagues, he got 2 different cards. But so that Hamilton, that includes his Mets time.
Yeah. So there you go, Dawg. You had a friggin'
We had 2 1s.
Yeah.
It's Marisnik.
Throwing him away.
A little preview.
Ian Happ, best position is left. Jason Hayward maintains his 1 in right. Nico Horner gets a 2 at second. Maben's there. He's got 3s in the Cubs. Hernan Perez. Cousin Anthony. Schwarber keeps the 4 in left.
Where's Schwarber gonna go?
Cleveland.
Which American?
Cleveland. Cleveland.
Cleveland could make sense.
Although they have Franmil Reyes, I don't know. They have some DHs there. He could play the outfield maybe for them.
He could play the outfield. He's not. I mean, he's a 4, but he's playable. He's better than he was.
Okay, now on to the Reds. Shogo Akiyama comes over from Japan, gets a 1 in left. He didn't hit. The Strat, I swear, I was on him because of the Strat-O-Matic simulation. I think he won the batting title in the Strat-O-Matic simulation. I'm like, I am taking this guy. I lived with that guy in fantasy, and, man, he never hit anything. I don't think he could have hit me if I was standing right in front of him. But he gets the 1 in left and the 3 in center. Tucker Barnhart, a one behind the plate. That's expected. 8 runs saved behind the plate, Dog.
That's
Maybe
pretty sick.
somebody should go grab him. Nick Castellanos gets the 5 and right. Totally expected. I don't know why they think this guy is like a good fielder. He's another guy like doesn't walk. He's really streaky. He's a bad fielder. I don't know.
Used to be a third baseman.
How about
Yeah.
Freddie
Wasn't a third baseman, and he's certainly not a right fielder.
Freddie
I know.
Galvis going from a 2 to a 4 at short?
That's a regular player. Like, it's hard to get a 5 playing as much outfield. I mean, he DH'd a lot this year because they could,
Yeah.
but he played a lot of right
He
field.
he was in the outfield a lot.
I mean,
Yeah, Dog with the Freddie Galvis call out. Man, that's tough.
That's a
Loses
roughie.
the 2s, but he's still a 3 at second and a 2 formerly there. Let's see. Who else? Anybody good? Travis Jankowski. He's just a glove. He's a 2
I like
everywhere in the
Eugenio
outfield.
Joey Votto not getting
yeah,
the love.
Suarez, they gave him a 3 at third.
Mustakis gets the 3 at first, but a 4 at second and third. So that hurts, and he's a regular. Like he's
Yeah.
in the lineup in the field every day. I feel like he's a little bit better fielder than that actually, but maybe
Yeah,
not.
4 seems a little rough.
Nick Senzel has not figured out center field yet. He's a 4. Eugenio Suarez. I think he has the most or second most homers in the major leagues over the last 2 years. He's a 3 at third. Votto goes from a 2 to a 4. I think you guys were just saying that. Jesse Winker stays as a 4. And we're on to the Rockies where Nolan Arenado easily maintains his 1 with 10 runs saved at the hot corner. Charlie Blackmon stays a 4 and right.
Trevor Story.
Yeah, where's
the 1 at short? 7
That's,
saved.
Dog helping me out there? Matt Kemp's a 5 and
Trying
left.
to keep us moving along.
Matt Kemp's
Nobody
a
cares
5.
about the entire rest of the Rockies team.
Kevin Pilar, you get the 1 in center though, and the 2 in right. Story. Oh,
Daniel
what about
Murphy.
Raimel
Daniel
Tapia?
Murphy a 5 at first. Ouch.
Wow.
5 to a 5.
I mean, he didn't play a lot in the field, right, this year?
He played first. He was one of the, he was
Yeah, I
like
thought
the
he was
regular
in-
first
Played all
baseman.
first,
Yeah.
or he played, did they
Played
play-
first. He was they're mostly regular first baseman. Ouch.
Yeah.
And he didn't hit that well.
Yeah.
He might be long for a job this year.
Yeah.
World champs. Austin Barnes 2 behind the plate. Cody Bellinger 2 at first, 1 in center. So he maintains his 2 at first. He goes from a 3 to a 1 in center. Definitely passes the eye test. Mookie Betts stays a 4 in right. I'm sorry, at second. I don't even remember him playing second this year. He maintains his 1
Must-
in
must
right.
been an inning, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't remember him even being there. I didn't watch every Dodger game, but I watched a lot of them. Kike Hernandez, 4 at first, 2 at second, 4 at short, 2 in left, 3 in center, 2 in right. He is.
Even then, that's really valuable. to
He's
have two
super
full
valuable.
over like that. You could put him anywhere. It's like it's like LeMahieu. You could put him in different places and mix and match with your team. And then in real strat, like when you're picking a guy like that, that's really valuable when you have a team that has, doesn't have 4s and stuff all over. You could put guys. You could make your team out a lot of different ways if you have a guy like that.
Dog, Corey Seager, a 3 at short. So you can win a World Series with a 3 at short. The Diamondbacks won with Tony Womack as a shortstop once. That hurt. I think he was like a 4. But you can, Dog. You see that? Corey Seager, he's worth that. So he's one of those 3s at short that you're like, okay, I'll live with him. I'll play him, right?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, you look at LA and like basically LA's run saved were in center and right. And, like the rest of the team is like average.
Yeah.
Which is remarkable that you get that much advantage from those 2 guys out there.
Chris Taylor, another Swiss Army knife. 3 at second, 2 at short, 2 in left, 3 in center. That's pretty valuable too, Jerry.
Yeah.
Justin Turner gets the 4 at third, and that's your world champs. The Brewers. Oh no, that's Miami. Jesus Aguilar, Played
Miami.
third.
You have to scroll down with Miami because everybody played for Miami.
Yeah, I know. There's a lot of
We all
guys here.
played multiple positions. And
Yeah.
50. There's 50 ratings.
The Don
God.
Mattingly run. I mean,
Man.
Okay, most importantly, Brian Anderson, a 1 at third, goes up from a 2. John Birdie, who stole second, third, and home against the Mets, gets 3s at second and short, and 4s at third and in right and center. So you got that going for you. Lewis Brinson, 2s everywhere in the outfield. Man, there are a lot of guys here. Holy cow.
Starlin Marte goes down for a 1 to a 2 left.
Oh, that's big. Well, he's still a 2 in center, so that helps, right?
It's the ties, yeah.
Let's see here. Miguel Rojas keeps his 2 at short with 5 runs saved and a 3 at third. Why would you play him at third? Who else do they have at short that's that good? Jonathan VR, we talked about him before. He's a 4. Everywhere, all over the place. Orlando Arcia. We are on the Brewers now. He gets the 2 at short and a 4 in center. Ryan Braun, the 4 in left. Oh, Lorenzo Cain gets his 1 in center still. Wow, I'm surprised at that. I figured he would have dropped off a little bit. Then it's like a sea of 4s until you get to Manny Pena, who's a 2 behind the plate, which nobody cares. Okay, nobody cares. Yeah. Let's see.
Urias gets the 2 at third.
Luis Urias. There you go. Yelich, 3 in left, down from a 2. -6 on the run saved, Dog, for Yelich. So it wasn't just a bad year at the plate. It was a bad year in the outfield.
One thing, I think he's going to turn it around. He's too good. He's too good a player.
Okay, so we had a little lull there, but now we're on to Dog's Mets. Pete Alonso maintains his 4 at first. Cano, 4 at second. Conforto, Dog, 3 in right. You surprised they didn't go up to a 2?
No, I think that's about fair. Honestly, that's about right. So decent arm and decent with the glove, but he doesn't cover a ton of range.
We previewed J.D. Davis before. Was a 5. Now he's a 4, a playable 4 maybe at third, and a 5 in left. But
Yeah,
-8.
The -8 runs saved sort of says you not. I mean, that's what we talked before, like Davis and Arenado, right?
And he
that's
went from
18.
a 5 to a 4, Davis. He did move to a 4, so it might be also a function of playing more third. But
Yeah, he had a little bit more versus.
Percentage of the season anyway.
Andres Jimenez, he's a 2 at second.
Wait.
No, Andres
Jimenez.
Jimenez.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
He's a 2 at second and short, and a 3 at third.
I mean, he's
your shortstop.
You'll never die with him. He's the shortstop.
Yeah, I could see that guy moving up to a 1. He's a good player. I think that one's sort of a conservative 2 on the shortstop, honestly.
Yeah, probably
honestly.
not enough playing time to give him a 1.
I think with time he's going to be a 1. Up on.
You know what's interesting? You got Luis Guillorme as a 2 at second. He could hit. You might get a little versatility with him there, and then you could.
He's a nice backup.
You can
McNeil
move.
will probably be.
Until you sign LeMahieu, he's your second baseman.
Well, you could,
McNeil would.
You could play him over there and move McNeil to third a little bit if you wanted to reduce some of J.D. Davis over there, right? Against the righties.
You could. You could do that.
Guillermo Heredia. Look at this. You get a 2 in center and right. Marisnik, a 1 in center. He keeps the 1, even though his run save was -2. And
like
McNeil.
5 innings.
McNeil, your Swiss Army knife. Look at this. 3s at second, third, left, and right. That's impressive. I'd take that. Nimmo, you got your 3 in left and right, and he's a 4 in center. He's a little overmatched there, as you said. Good call on that. Good job on that. Rosario,
3 at first.
Yeah, and a 5 in left.
5 in the left.
Ouch. Rosario, a 3 at short, but he could be another guy. He said he'll play anywhere for you.
Yeah, sounds like he's gonna have to play anywhere.
All right, and those are your Mets. Phillies. Baum. That Alec Baum is a guy who's like that's just a Jerry name right there, like all the way. Remember as a kid, he had a kid in camp when he was a little kid, John Baum. He used to tell
He
used to
hit
tell us.
bombs. He did too, John Baum. He was a little guy, but man, he could hit bombs.
I know, I remember
look at
that stuff.
Look at McCutcheon. In left, going from a 2 to a 4, -7. Ooh.
Oof.
Father Time hit that one hard.
Yeah. Didi maintains his 2 at short.
Interesting team, the Phillies.
Bryce Harper keeps his 2 in right, and he did play center, and he keeps his 4 there. Reese Hoskins still a 4 at first. Scott Kingery was supposed to be the second coming. He's not.
2 to a 4 in the outfield.
Yeah.
That was painful.
Dawg was just pounding him. Oh, Real Muto. 1 behind the plate, 3 at first. Maintains both of those ratings. Gene Segura goes from second from a 1 to a 2, and he gets a third base number as a 3, and he can't play short anymore because he's a 4. Ronald Torreyes, there you go. That's where he ended up. Let's see. We're on the Pirates.
Ryan Hayes, 2 at third base. Charlie Hayes' son.
Yeah. Josh Bell, a 4 at first.
First-round draft pick.
Anybody good? Adam Frazier, 2 at second.
Ryan Murphy is still in the league.
Yeah, he's still there.
2.
Let's see. Any Gregory Polanco is a 4 still. Thought he'd be better. Brian Reynolds a 2 in left and a 3 in center. JT Riddle is a 4 everywhere.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All the numbers. He's got a 4.
He's easy.
I got to skip.
Yeah. Jacob Stallings a 2 behind the plate. He's the most underrated catcher that you've never heard of. That's at least what I hear. I don't know. Nobody's ever seen him play because he's on the Pirates. Let's see. The Cardinals, Harrison Bader. My pal George Morez loves this guy, and he maintains his 1 in center field. The kid, Dylan Carlson, massive prospect. A 2 in left, a 3 in center, and a 2 in right. Matty Carpenter, 4 at first with a 3 at third. Paul DeYoung maintains his 2 at short. Tommy Edman holds on to his 2 at second. His 2 at third. He's a 3 at second. And he's a 4 at short and the corner outfield positions.
Yachty keeps a 2.
Colton Wong keeping the 1 at second.
Matt
I've saved.
Goldschmidt still a 1 at first. Yeah, Yachty, I don't know. Tyler O'Neill, didn't he win a Gold Glove? So he goes from a 3 to a 2 in left field, and I think he won a Gold Glove. So it's another guy. You got one guy who was a Gold Glove finalist who's a 4. One guy who won an actual Gold Glove, I think. He was a 2. So you never know. Just because you win that award doesn't mean Strat is going to reward you. Man, the Cardinals have a lot of guys, too. Greg Allen maintains his 2 in right. Padres, the most exciting team on the West Coast that didn't win a World Series.
Strat-O got his 1.
Our fave of the initial episodes of Diamond Diehards.
Michigan.
Tatis. You got Tatis and Machado.
Michigan Wolverine Jake Cronenworth, 3 at first, 2 at second. Wow. 4 at third, 3 at short. Pretty good. Not going to complain about that. Trent Grisham, 2 in center.
Tatis, the 1 at short, huh? Ooh.
Yeah.
Wow. That kind of hitting. Oh.
And Manny Machado with the 1 maintains his 1 at third. How about this, Jerry? How about this? Josh Naylor. He's a 0 at first. Look at that. I think that's some kind of a typo. Josh Naylor is a 0 at first. He's something called a Z. He's that good. He's just a complete. Anything that you hit to him is out. It doesn't matter.
He's O to B McDowell.
Yeah.
Oscar Gamble.
Tommy Pham, he's a 3 in left, and you know what? They look at him as he DH'd a lot last year. I was like, I thought he's a pretty good fielder, and they do rate him pretty highly, so that helps. Giants. Brandon Belt holds on to his 1 at first, and that's his only position. No outfield for him last year.
He had a good year, Brandon Bell.
Yeah, Brandon Crawford
He had a really
goes
good
from
year.
a 3 to a 2 at short. He used to be a 1 all the time.
He was.
Let's see. Mauricio Dubon is a 2 at second.
It's
And
the most runs saved.
Kind of a boring.
Wilbur.
Yaz got his 1 in right field.
did he?
Yeah, Yaz
He was
got
a
a
good player.
1 in right. How about this? A 1
Yeah.
in right, a 2 in left, and a 3 in center.
That's old school. We used to see that. We used to see that, like, not all the time, but that
Yeah,
wasn't
you'd
like
be
a
like
crazy.
like a 2 in center and 1 in the corners or whatever. Yeah.
Well, no, I like
Or
you'd
2,
see
3.
like a guy like that. He played a primary position as a 1, a secondary position as a 2, and then he also had center as a 3. But he also had those different ratings. The previous year, he was a 2 in left, so he maintains the 2. He was a 4 in center, he becomes a 3. He was a 3 in left, and he becomes a 1. So that's good job on that for Yaz, little Yaz.
Nationals.
Nationals.
You said, were in the bottom 4. You said, or they were like third from the
That's
bottom.
sort of worst.
from the bottom?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's sort of worst fielding.
Yeah, so Dawg, you got Adam Eaton played right field, and he went from a 3 to a 4. So maybe he finds a little juice again for the White Sox. But you were right on that call out. You saw him having really taken a
Yeah.
dip, and
Yep.
all these Nationals are like 4s. Do we even have a 2 anywhere? Andrew Stevenson in left. I mean, and right, we're reaching there.
The best defensive run saved is 1.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
I had saved a run for you. Thanks, Skip.
Wow. Juan Soto goes from a 2 to a 3 in left, and he's a 3 in right, -8 on the run saved. Ouch. Kurt Suzuki -4 in the run saved, but he's a 3. Rap. You love it. You love it.
Always tortures the Mets.
Michael Taylor, who left, he went from a 1 to a 2 in center. And
Yan Gomes surprised. Yan Gomes to -4 somehow as a catcher. He's actually a pretty good catcher, I thought.
yeah, Victor Robles goes from a 1 to a 3 in center, and he didn't hit for shit last year either because I had him and I kept waiting for him.
His other catcher ratings might be better. The catcher has those extra ratings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And last but not least, the
Trey
white
Turner in a bed.
the white Jesus Trey Turner maintains his 2 at short. That's it for the Strat ratings, Dawg. Any final thoughts on those? You know, you did a lot of your extra analytics helping us out.
I think we've beaten this horse
Whew.
enough.
Well, if you're gonna do the 50th show, right? You gotta.
This is Cavs the 51st too.
Yeah. Well, it could have. We could have done AL and NL, but I think we slogged through it. We sped through okay. We did the National League a little faster than we did the American League, but nonetheless.
So, I mean, we did it in strat terms, but when you talk about these things, you're talking about fielding in general, also how it maybe compares to real life.
There you go. Actually, if I could, I got one sort of interesting kind of roll up. I think. So looking at the kind of breaking out like 1s through 4s in terms of runs saved. So 1s saved you 150 runs. Remember, there was 5% of the guys did that. 2s saved you 100 runs. That was again about 15% or so. So basically 250 runs saved there. 3s cost you 71, so that's most of the league. And then 4s cost you 193. So the brutal fielders out there. So that sort of says it's a lot of guys out there playing as a 4, right? And 5s were like -20. So for overall, it was a -34, which I'm not sure how that exactly works. But basically the 1s and 2s, so that 20% is offsetting
That might be rounding.
the other 80%.
Yeah, you probably have some rounding because remember these are all whole numbers, and so.
Oh, Jerry's breaking my chops on rounding numbers. Like, come on now, Jerry.
That's how it might happen.
Let's go 1.8s out there. Okay, whatever. The 1.8 it is. But the top 20% basically bailed out the other 80%, which is maybe kind of an interesting one. And the top 5% bailed out like half the other, I guess 40% of the guys who sucked. Yeah, basically the 5% basically bails out the 40% of guys who are 4s, just about.
And the top guy is Gallo at 13 runs saved.
Yep.
And the bottom guy, if I could scroll down fast enough, Oh, no, too many.
Let's see, 60, 65, 70. Yeah, so about half of that was out in the outfield and half in the infield, which I guess somewhat makes sense, especially the left and the center and right.
Bottom guy is
Base strippers.
Torrens at minus 14. That looks like the bottom guy. Am I right?
Let's see. I got this all filtered now. Let's see. Everybody. That. Oops. I had Trout at -9. But that might be, you might be summing them up with multiple.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, let's say I just have maybe he has two positions. He did a minus somewhere in between the two of them. Who was that? Let me do it real quick. Who was that again, Riz?
Luis Torrens, the catcher.
Torrens.
Did that come up? Padres?
Yeah.
Or Seattle, actually. I don't know. Could be either one. This is so funny. We're doing this on the air.
Yeah, he's on.
Yeah, it's between the two of them. Yeah, so he's -7 and -7. So he's -7 in the AL, -7 in the NL.
Yeah, so that's probably where you're getting your discrepancy from. So it's Alex Dickerson at -11 because we know he played for the Giants. He had that 3-homer game. Yeah. Good job on that. So we're giving it to Alex Dickerson. We're saying he was the worst guy. But he did have that 3-homer game.
We give it to this Torrens. He's -14 overall.
No, I think he just got the -7 because he played on I think he was probably a -7 overall, and they just gave him a -7 because he has a Padre and a Mariner card. I think he got just trust me.
I don't know how much they
okay.
I don't know.
He would have to have been -7 in 7 games for the Padres. I don't think he was. That would have been. It's almost impossible. He only played 7 games there. So I'm saying that
there's a lot of bad guys there. That's the moral of the story. Nobody knows how to field anymore.
All right. But you know what we do know how to do? We know how to end the show. So I think we're going to do that. The guest tonight, he's really a third co-host or sometimes the second co-host at times in the early days. Seems like we're in the early days still, but Jerry Milani, follow him at GBPackJerry. Boy, if you hung around all the way till now, damn it, go follow him because he earned your follow. He really earned your follow. It's a school night for him. Well, but we're almost.
Yeah, they're all remote tomorrow.
We're almost to break. Let's see.
They're
He's
not
remote
learning
too. Episode 50 is a wrap. Follow us everywhere. The show Facebook page, Facebook group, Twitter, Twitch, Instagram. It's at Diamond Diehards there. We're on LinkedIn and YouTube as well. Follow us there if you want to do business with us. LinkedIn, that's probably the best way to contact us, I'd say, or even on Facebook, whatever. We're everywhere. For the listeners, pulling Uncle Paul, subscribe to the audio on iTunes, Spotify, and Stitcher. If you couldn't make it through this whole thing, and boy, if you could, we admire you. You'll be around for the next 50 if you made it this far. Oh, baby! Visit fmsgraphics.com for all your printing and promotional needs, not just around the holidays, but around all the time. Follow the dog on Twitter at JeffHealy8. The number 8. You can follow me on Twitter at Rear Naked Choke, all one word, and follow my other show, the MMA show, RNC Radio, Rear Naked Choke Radio. You can find it on iTunes, Stitcher, everywhere you find your podcast. There's a Facebook group. There's everything so. If you want to get into that, we appreciate your support over there. So that's going to do it for episode 50, the epic episode 50 of Diamond Diehards. I will thank Jerry Milani once again, and I will tell you that Diamond Diehards. Wait, no, I can't tell you that without saying for the dog, Jeff Healy, and Jerry Milani. This is Joe Rizzo. Diamond Diehards is out.